3 months ago, a wildlife biologist sent me footage that was buried for 30 years, showing him as an 8-year-old boy walking hand in hand with something that shouldn't exist. He was the child everyone said was lying, the missing person case that became a national joke, and now he has proof that what raised him in those woods for 6 days wasn't human, and it's still wearing the bracelet it made for him. But here's what kept me up for 72 straight hours. If this footage is real, what does it mean about the hundreds of other found children who told the exact same story? I'm going to show you this footage in a minute. But first you need to see what I saw. The email came at 2:47 in the morning. The subject line just said, "You need to see this." The sender's name was M. Chin. I didn't recognize it. I almost deleted it. I get dozens of these every week. People claiming they have proof, saying they know the truth, telling me they've seen things. Most of them are blurry photos of bears or videos of guys in gorilla suits stumbling through their backyard. But something about this one felt different. I opened it. No message. Just a video file attached. 47 seconds long. The file name was Marcus_1993_original.mov. My cursor hovered over it for a few seconds. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I clicked play. The footage was grainy, the kind of quality you get from old camcorders, the ones that recorded onto those big clunky tapes. The image bounced and shook. Whoever was holding the camera was running. I could hear breathing, fast and shallow. Branches snapped. Shoes hit dirt. Then the camera swung around and stopped. There, in the center of the frame, standing maybe 30 feet away at the edge of a clearing, was a small boy. He looked about 8 or 9 years old. Dark hair. Dirty face. His clothes were torn and covered in mud. But he was smiling. That's what got me first. He wasn't crying. He wasn't scared. He was smiling like he'd just come home from a friend's house. His right hand was raised up beside him, fingers wrapped around something. The camera zoomed in and that's when I saw it. A hand. Massive. Easily 3 times the size of the boy's hand. Covered in dark brown hair. Thick fingers with what looked like dark nails. The boy's small hand was completely wrapped inside this enormous palm. And they were just standing there. Holding hands. Like a father and son. The camera shook again. A woman's voice screamed, "Marcus, oh my God, Marcus." The boy turned toward the camera. He said something but I couldn't make out the words. Then the massive hand released his. The boy took a step forward. And behind him, something moved. The camera jerked, tried to track it, but it was too fast. For just a moment, maybe 2 seconds, I saw it clearly. A figure. Tall. So tall its head was above the tree branches behind it. Broad shoulders. Long arms. Covered entirely in hair. It turned slightly and I saw part of its face. Heavy brow. Deep-set eyes. Not like a gorilla. Not like a bear. Something else. Something in between. Then it stepped backward into the shadows of the trees and vanished. The footage was cut to black. I sat there in my dark office, staring at the screen. My hands were shaking. I replayed it. Then again. Then 12 more times. Every time I watched, I saw more details. The way the creature's chest moved when it breathed. The way its shoulder muscles shifted when it stepped back. The way it looked at the boy one last time before it left, like it was checking to make sure he'd be okay. This wasn't a guy in a suit. The proportions were wrong. The movement was wrong. Everything about it was wrong for a hoax. I checked the file data. Created October 1993. No signs of editing. No digital manipulation that I could find. I've spent 5 years running this channel. I've analyzed hundreds of supposed Bigfoot videos. I can spot a fake in under 30 seconds now. The shoulders are always wrong. The arms are too short. The movement is too stiff. People walk like people even in costumes. This didn't walk like a person. I went back to the email. Scrolled down. There was a second message I'd missed. It was short. My name is Marcus Chin. I'm the boy in this video. I was 8 years old. Everyone said my family faked it. They said I was lying. We lost everything because of this footage. But I never lied. And now I have proof they were wrong. I need to tell someone who will actually listen. Will you? At the bottom was a phone number. I looked at the clock. 3:15 in the morning. Too late to call. But I couldn't sleep. I spent the next 4 hours going down a rabbit hole I didn't even know existed. I searched for Marcus Chin missing 1993. The results are loaded. News articles. Old forum posts. Scanned newspaper clippings. And there it was. The story I'd somehow never heard. October 12, 1992. 6 Rivers National Forest in Northern California. A family camping trip. Marcus Chin, age 8, vanished during a morning hike. His parents called for help. Rangers responded within 2 hours. By nightfall, over 50 volunteers were searching. By day 3, that number had grown to over 200 people. K-9 units. Helicopters with thermal cameras. Search and rescue teams from 3 counties. They found nothing. No tracks. No torn clothing. No signs of a struggle. It was like he'd been erased from the forest. On the morning of day 7, a ranger found him. Walking out of the woods on his own. Healthy. A little dehydrated. Covered in dirt and scratches, but fine. Better than fine. He'd actually gained weight. When they asked him what happened, he told them about the big man. The one who found him when he got lost. The one who gave him berries and kept him warm at night. The one who made clicking sounds when the loud ones came near. That's what Marcus called the hunters. The loud ones. His older sister had grabbed their dad's camcorder when she heard Marcus was found. She was filming their reunion when she caught something else. Something watching from the trees. The footage aired once on the local evening news. Then everything changed. The Chin family arrived at 6 Rivers National Forest on October 10, 1992. It was supposed to be a normal weekend trip. David and Lynn Chin, their daughter Amy who was 13, and Marcus who had just turned 8 the month before. They set up camp in a designated area about 2 miles from the nearest ranger station. The weather was perfect that first day. Clear skies. Temperature in the low 60s. They roasted hot dogs over the fire. Marcus caught a frog near the creek and kept it in a plastic container until his mom made him let it go. Amy took photos with their new camera. Everything was normal. The next morning, David wanted to hike up to a lookout point about a mile from camp. The trail was marked. Rangers said it was an easy walk, good for families. They started out around 9 in the morning. Marcus ran ahead like kids do, then circled back, then ran ahead again. David called after him to stay where they could see him. Marcus waved and kept going. The trail curved around a big rock formation. When David and Lynn came around that curve 30 seconds later, Marcus was gone. They called his name. Nothing. David ran forward. The trail split into 2 paths ahead. He couldn't tell which way Marcus had gone. Lynn started yelling louder. Amy joined in. They stood there calling his name for 5 full minutes. The forest was completely silent except for their voices. David told Lynn and Amy to stay put and keep calling. He ran down the left path for maybe 200 yards. No sign of Marcus. He came back and took the right path. Nothing. By the time he got back to where his wife and daughter were standing, 15 minutes had passed. His shirt was soaked with sweat. Lynn was crying. They half ran, half stumbled back to camp. David grabbed the car keys and drove to the ranger station. He was going so fast on those dirt roads the car fishtailed twice. He ran inside and told them his son was missing. The ranger on duty, a man named Tom Walsh, grabbed his radio immediately. Within 20 minutes, 4 rangers were at the trailhead. Within 2 hours, volunteer search teams started arriving. They searched until dark that first day. Covered every trail within a 2-mile radius of where Marcus was last seen. Called his name until their voices went hoarse. Brought in dogs that sniffed Marcus's jacket and took off into the trees, but kept losing the scent. By nightfall they'd found nothing. Not a footprint. Not a piece of torn clothing. Nothing. The family spent that night in a ranger cabin. Lynn couldn't stop shaking. Amy sat in the corner with her knees pulled up to her chest, not talking. David paced back and forth, until Tom Walsh put a hand on his shoulder and told him to sit down. Nobody slept. Day 2 brought more volunteers. Over 100 people showed up. Local hiking clubs. Church groups. People who'd heard about it on the morning news and just drove out to help. They formed lines and walked through the forest shoulder to shoulder, checking behind every tree and under every bush. A helicopter came in with a thermal imaging camera. It flew grid patterns over the search area for 6 hours. Nothing. Day 3 the story made national news. Missing boy in California forest. Reporters showed up. Camera crews. The family did an interview on the steps of the ranger station. Lynn begged whoever was watching to help find her son. Her face was so pale it looked gray. The search expanded to a 5-mile radius. Over 200 people now. They brought in dogs from another county, special tracking dogs that had found missing hikers before. The dogs hit on something near a creek bed about 3 miles from where Marcus disappeared. Everyone rushed to that spot. They found nothing there. Just rocks and water. Day 4, some volunteers started talking quietly about recovery instead of rescue. 4 days in the wilderness for an 8-year-old with no coat, no food, no water. The nights were getting down into the 40s. Rangers don't say this out loud, but everyone knows. After 72 hours, the chances drop. Way down. David heard two volunteers talking near the command tent. One of them said maybe they should start checking the bottom of ravines more carefully. David walked away before he heard the rest. Day 5 the search got smaller. Some volunteers had to go back to work. Some just gave up hope. By day 6 there were maybe 40 people left searching. The helicopter didn't come back. The news crews packed up and left. Tom Walsh sat with the Chin family that night and started talking about next steps, about what resources were still available, about how they weren't giving up. But his eyes said something different. On the morning of Day 7, October 18th, a ranger named Sarah Kim was doing a perimeter check on the south side of the search area. The sun was just coming up. She was walking a fire road that hadn't been used in months when she saw something moving. A small figure walking toward her down the middle of the road. She grabbed her radio and called it in. Then she started running. It was Marcus, walking slow but steady. His clothes were torn and dirty. His face had scratches on it. Mud caked in his hair. But he was walking. He was alive. Sarah dropped to her knees in front of him and asked if he was okay. Marcus nodded. He was crying a little but smiling too. She asked if he was hurt. He shook his head. She picked him up and carried him back to her truck. The radio call went out. Every ranger, every volunteer still searching heard it. Marcus Chin found alive. The family was at the command tent when they got the news. Lynn collapsed. Amy started sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. David just stood there with his mouth open, not moving. They rushed him to a medical tent. The paramedics checked him over. His temperature was normal. Heart rate normal. Blood pressure is fine. He was dehydrated but not badly. He had some scratches and bruises. His feet had blisters from walking in wet shoes. But overall he was okay. Better than okay. When they weighed him he'd actually gained 2 pounds. 2 pounds? After 6 days lost in the forest. The doctors couldn't explain it. Neither could the rangers. Everyone kept asking Marcus the same questions. Where were you? How did you survive? What did you eat? And Marcus kept giving the same answers. He said he got lost following the rabbit. He said he tried to find his way back but everything looked the same. He said he sat down and started crying. Then he heard something big walking through the trees. He thought it was a bear at first. He tried to be quiet like his dad taught him. But it wasn't a bear. It was the big man. Taller than the trees, Marcus said. Covered in brown hair. With a face like a person but not quite. The big man didn't hurt him. He took Marcus's hand and led him to a safe place. A spot under some rocks where the wind couldn't reach. He brought Marcus berries. Big ones. Sweet ones. Different from the berries near their house. He showed Marcus which plants were okay to eat and which ones weren't. At night, the big man curled around Marcus to keep him warm. Marcus said it was like sleeping next to a big dog but warmer. During the day they walked around. The big man showed Marcus things. How to find water. How to tell directions by looking at moss on trees. Once, the big man made a clicking sound and pulled Marcus behind a log. 2 men with guns walked past not 20 feet away. Marcus stayed quiet until they were gone. He said the big man called them the loud ones. On the 6th night, Marcus told the big man he wanted to go home. He didn't know if the big man understood words but he kept pointing and saying home, home, home. The next morning the big man took his hand and started walking. They walked for hours. When they got close to the fire road the big man stopped. He let go of Marcus's hand. Marcus turned around to say thank you but the big man was already gone. Just disappeared back into the trees. That's when Marcus saw the ranger and started walking toward her. Nobody believed Marcus. At first, the rangers and volunteers were just happy he was alive. They patted him on the head and smiled. But when he kept talking about the big man their smiles got tight. The doctors suggested he might be confused. Trauma does that to kids, they said. Makes them remember things wrong. Mix up dreams with reality. David and Lynn didn't know what to think. Their son was alive and that's all that mattered. But the story he told didn't make sense. When the reporters asked what happened, David just said Marcus got lost and found his way back. He didn't mention the big man. He didn't want people thinking his kid was crazy. But Amy believed her brother. She was there when they brought him back to the ranger station. She saw something that nobody else noticed. On Marcus's right wrist was a bracelet. It was woven from strips of bark, twisted together in a tight pattern. Dark brown and gray strips, braided so carefully the ends were tucked in and hidden. It looked old, like it had been worn for years, but Marcus hadn't been wearing it when he disappeared. Amy asked him where he got it. Marcus looked down at his wrist like he'd forgotten it was there. He said the big man made it for him. Put it on his wrist the first night to help him feel safe. Amy pulled out the camcorder. Their dad had bought it 3 months earlier and she'd been filming everything on the trip. She wanted to film Marcus coming home. She wanted proof he was okay. The footage starts with the medical tent. Marcus sitting on a bench wrapped in a blanket. Lynn hugging him so tight he makes a small oof sound. David kneels beside them with his hand on Marcus's head. Then Marcus stands up to walk toward the parking area. He's holding his mom's hand. Amy follows with the camera. That's when she sees it. At the edge of the tree line, maybe 30 feet back from the tent, something is standing in the shadows. She turns the camera. Zooms in. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, it's there. Clear enough to see. Then it steps backward and it's gone. Amy gasps. You can hear it on the audio. The camera shakes. She runs forward trying to follow it, but there's nothing there anymore. Just trees and shadows. That night, Amy showed the footage to her parents. They watched it 5 times. Lynn kept pausing it on the frame where you could see the figure most clearly. The size of it. The shape. David said it could be a hunter in camouflage. Amy asked what hunter stands that tall. What hunter disappears like that? Lynn didn't say anything. She just kept staring at the screen. The next morning, a reporter from the local news came to their house. She wanted to do a follow-up story. Happy ending. Lost boy found safe. The family agreed to do the interview. At the end, the reporter asked Marcus to tell her what happened in the forest. Marcus looked at his parents. David nodded. So Marcus told her. About the big man. About the berries. About sleeping under the rocks. About the loud ones with guns. The reporter's smile faded. She glanced at her cameraman. After the interview, she asked if they had any other footage. Amy showed her the video from the ranger station. The reporter watched it 3 times. Then she asked if she could make a copy. Amy gave her the tape. The story aired that night on the 6 o'clock news. They showed the interview with Marcus. They showed Amy's footage. The anchor said a local boy claims Bigfoot saved his life. They played the clip of the figure in the trees. Froze it on the clearest frame. Asked viewers what they thought. The phone at the Chin house started ringing at 6:23. It didn't stop. Reporters wanted interviews. Magazines wanted to buy the story. People called Marcus a liar. Other people called him a hero. Someone left a dead raccoon on their porch with a note that said stop lying. Someone else sent flowers with a card that said thank you for speaking the truth. The family stopped answering the phone. David unplugged it on the 3rd day. But that was just the beginning. By the end of the week, people started showing up at their house. Men with cameras and big backpacks. They knocked on the door and asked where exactly Marcus had been found. They wanted coordinates. They wanted to know which part of the forest. David told them to leave. They'd park down the street instead and wait. Some of them followed David to work. One man offered the family $10,000 for the exact location. Another man said he'd pay $5,000 just to interview Marcus alone. Lynn called the police twice. The police came and told the people to leave. They'd leave for a few hours then come back. At school, kids started calling Marcus a liar. They'd make monkey sounds when he walked past. Someone wrote a Bigfoot boy on his locker in permanent marker. His teacher had to move his desk because kids kept turning around to stare at him during class. Amy had it worse. She was 13. 13 is already hard. Now everyone knew her as the girl with the Bigfoot video. Half the kids at school said she faked it. The other half wanted to see the footage over and over. Boys she didn't know would come up to her and ask if her brother was stupid or crazy. Girls she thought were her friends started avoiding her. Someone made a joke about it in the cafeteria and the whole room laughed. She stopped eating lunch. I started spending that period in the library. At home, she'd go to her room and close the door and not come out except for dinner. David's boss called him into the office 6 weeks after Marcus came home. Said some clients had concerns. Said maybe David should take some time off. Said the company had an image to protect. David quit that day. I walked out and didn't go back. He found another job a month later, but it paid less. They had to move to a smaller house across town. The footage kept spreading. Someone made a copy of the copy and put it on early internet forums. People argued about it. Frame by frame analysis. Some said it was a person in a suit. Others said the proportions were wrong for that. Someone claimed they could see a zipper. Someone else said that wasn't a zipper, that was a shadow. A local costume shop owner said he'd made the suit for the family. Then a week later said he was joking. The news station got so many calls they did a follow-up story. Brought in a wildlife expert who said it was probably a bear standing on its hind legs. Brought in a video analyst who said the footage was too grainy to say anything for certain. They didn't bring the Chin family back on. David had told them no more interviews. No more stories. Leave us alone. In November of 1994, 2 years after Marcus went missing, men with guns came to the forest. A group of hunters who called themselves researchers. They'd been tracking the story. They wanted proof. They set up cameras. Motion sensors. They walked the areas where Marcus said he'd been. Shot at shadows. Left food out like bait. Rangers had to escort them out twice. One of them shot at a hiker by accident. I thought it was something else. The hiker wasn't hurt, but he could have been. After that, the Forest Service started talking about permits and restricted areas. They didn't say it was because of the chin footage, but everyone knew. Tom Walsh, the ranger who'd coordinated Marcus's search, gave an interview. Said he believed Marcus had been confused. Said trauma makes kids invent stories to cope. Said there was no evidence of anything unusual in that forest. Said the footage showed a person, not a creature. Maybe a volunteer who'd been searching. Maybe someone who didn't want to be on camera. The community wanted closure. They wanted normal. The Chin family was making that impossible. By the summer of 1995, Amy was 16. A local news station called and asked if she'd come on to set the record straight. They said people deserved to know the truth. They said it would help people move on. Amy agreed. She didn't tell her parents until the day before. Lynn begged her not to do it. Amy said she had to. She was tired of being the Bigfoot girl. Tired of people whispering. Tired of carrying this thing. The interview aired on a Tuesday night. Amy sat in a chair across from the anchor. She wore a blue sweater. Her hair was pulled back. She looked tired. The anchor asked her about the footage. Amy said it wasn't real. Said she and Marcus had made it up. Said their dad had a friend who dressed up and helped them. Said they thought it would be funny. I didn't think anyone would take it seriously. The anchor asked why she was coming forward now. Amy said because it had gone too far. Because her family couldn't live like this anymore. Because she was sorry. I called Marcus the morning after I got his email. He answered on the second ring. His voice was deep and calm. Not what I expected. He said he'd been waiting for my call. We talked for 3 hours that first time. He told me everything. After Amy's confession on TV, the family changed their last name. Moved to Oregon. David found work as an accountant. Lynn became a teacher. Amy went to college in another state and they barely spoke to her for years. Marcus finished high school quietly. Didn't talk about what happened. When kids asked about his past, he'd say they moved around a lot. Nobody pushed. In college he studied biology. Then ecology. Then got his PhD in wildlife behavior. Now he's 38 years old. Works for the Forestry Service. Spends most of his time in the woods studying animal patterns. And he never stopped looking. He told me he spent 20 years going back to those forests. Started when he was 18. Would drive out on weekends with a backpack and a camera. Walk the same trails. Sleep in the same areas. Leave food out. Listen for sounds. People thought he was hunting or camping. He was searching. For the first 5 years he found nothing. No tracks. No signs. Nothing that proved what he knew was true. But he kept going. Every month. Sometimes twice a month. He learned which areas had the most reports. Which valleys had the strangest sounds at night. Which ridges showed up in old native stories about forest guardians. He started placing trail cameras. The cheap ones at first. Then better ones. Motion activated. Night vision. He'd hide them in trees, check them every few weeks, find hundreds of photos of deer and elk and nothing else. Then in 2015 he caught something. A thermal signature on one of his cameras. It was 3 in the morning in July. The camera picked up a heat source moving through the frame. Tall. Walking on 2 legs. The resolution wasn't good enough to see details, but the shape was wrong for a person. Too broad at the shoulders. Arms too long. It walked past the camera and disappeared into the trees. Marcus showed me the footage. It's 11 seconds long. I watched it 30 times. The way it moves is fluid. Not clumsy. Not stumbling. The stride length is huge. Maybe 4 feet between steps. A person that tall would need to be over 7 feet. Maybe 8. And the heat distribution is strange. Hottest at the core and head. Cooler at the extremities. That's not how a person in a suit would show up on thermal. A suit traps heat evenly. After that, Marcus focused his cameras in that area. Within a year he had audio recordings. Deep whoops. Wood knocks. Once, something that sounded like speech. Fast and guttural. He sent the audio to a language professor at his university. The professor said it had structure. Repetition. Patterns that suggested communication, not just random noise. But without more samples he couldn't say more than that. Marcus kept recording. Kept searching. In 2019 he got a visual. Not thermal. Actual video. The camera was hidden 12 feet up in a tree overlooking a game trail. At dawn something walked past. The footage is shaky because the camera was moving slightly in the wind, but you can see it. Brown hair covering the entire body. Walking upright. No clothing. No backpack. No gun. It stops for a moment and looks directly at the camera. Then keeps walking. Marcus thought that was the proof he needed. He showed it to colleagues. Most said it could be a person. Could be a hoax. One professor suggested he was seeing what he wanted to see. Confirmation bias. Marcus stopped showing people after that. But he noticed something in that 2019 footage. On the creature's left wrist, there was something wrapped around it. A band of some kind. He couldn't see it clearly. The resolution wasn't high enough. But it was there. He went back and checked all his old footage. The thermal signature from 2015. If he looked closely, there was a bright spot on the left wrist. Brighter than the surrounding arm. Like something was wrapped there holding heat. He started wondering. I started hoping. In 2023 he got his answer. He'd placed a new camera, one with 4K resolution, in an area where he'd found broken branches arranged in patterns. Locals called it a shelter. Rangers called it random. Marcus called it a sign. The camera sat there for 2 months. Captured nothing but animals. Then on September 9th at 6:47 in the morning, it recorded something walking past. This footage is different from anything I've ever seen. It's clear. Sure. The creature is maybe 20 feet from the camera. You can see individual hairs. You can see the muscle movement under the skin. You can see the face. Heavy brow. Deep-set eyes. Wide nose. Mouth slightly open showing teeth. It's breathing hard like it's been running. And on its left wrist is a bracelet. Woven bark. Dark brown and gray strips braided together in a tight pattern. The same pattern as the one Marcus wore when he came out of the forest 31 years ago. Marcus paused the video on that frame and sent me a photo. Then he sent me another photo. His bracelet. The one from 1992. His parents had kept it in a box. He'd taken it when he moved out. The patterns match. Exactly. The same over-under weave. The same thickness. The same number of strands. Even the way the ends are tucked and hidden. Identical. Marcus explained what this means. The creature in the 2023 footage is young. Maybe 15 or 16 years old if they age like humans do. Maybe younger. It's smaller than the one from 1993. Shorter. Less bulk. And it's wearing the same style bracelet. Marcus thinks they mark their young with these. Like families. Like traditions. The big man who kept Marcus safe made him a bracelet. And now, 31 years later, that same big man made one for someone else. Or maybe taught someone else how to make them. Either way, it's proof. Not just that they exist, but that they have culture. They teach. They remember. They pass things down. Marcus's voice cracked when he told me this. He said for 31 years people called him a liar. Called him confused. Said he made it up for attention. His own sister said on television that it was fake. But he knew what he remembered. And now he has proof. There's more. Marcus sent me 3 other files. Audio recordings from the same area where he got the 2023 video. Deep vocalizations. The same kind of sounds people have called samurai chatter since the 1970s. Fast, rough, deep syllables that sound almost like language. Marcus isolated one phrase that repeats in multiple recordings. It sounds like Wani Kuru Raha. He had it analyzed. The phonetic structure matches sounds found in some coastal indigenous languages. Old languages. Ones that aren't spoken much anymore. One translation suggested it means something close to here, safe, no fear. Marcus thinks it means I'm here, don't be afraid. He thinks that's what the big man was saying to him in 1992. When he led Marcus away from the hunters. When he brought him to the cave. When he let him go near the road. I'm here. Don't be afraid. I asked Marcus why he's coming forward now. Why risk it again after what happened to his family? He said because he's not a kid anymore. Because he has evidence that can stand up to scrutiny. Because he spent 20 years building a career so people would take him seriously. And because he's tired. Tired of carrying this alone. Tired of knowing something true and watching the world call it fake. He said he's not trying to prove Bigfoot exists. He's trying to prove that what happened to him was real. That the big man who saved his life deserves to be acknowledged. Not hunted. Not turned into a trophy. Just acknowledged. He asked me if I'd help him tell the story the right way. Tell it so people understand why it matters. I said yes before he finished asking. After I talked to Marcus, I started digging. I wanted to know if his story was unique or part of something bigger. What I found kept me awake for 3 straight nights. There are over 200 documented cases in North America of children found alive after days or weeks in wilderness areas. Cases where the child survived longer than they should have. Cases where they came back healthier than expected. Cases where their stories didn't make sense. I pulled reports from the last 50 years. Read ranger accounts. Old newspaper articles. Forum posts from search and rescue volunteers. The pattern is there if you know what to look for. A 6-year-old girl in Montana, missing for 9 days in 1987, found walking down a logging road. She said a hairy giant kept her warm. Her parents told reporters she was confused. A 7-year-old boy in Washington, missing for 5 days in 2003, found asleep under a tree. He had berries in his pockets he couldn't identify. Rangers said he got lucky. A 9-year-old in British Columbia, missing for a week in 2011, found with no shoes but no frostbite. She said someone big carried her part of the way. Doctors said hypothermia causes hallucinations. Every single one of these cases follows the same pattern. The child goes missing. Massive search finds nothing. The child reappears days later in impossible condition. The child tells a story about being helped by something large and hairy. Adults dismiss it. The story gets buried. Family moves on. I found 23 cases where the child specifically mentioned being given a bracelet or necklace or some kind of woven gift. In 18 of those cases, the item disappeared before anyone could examine it closely. My parents threw it away. It got lost in moving. A doctor disposed of it. In the 5 cases where photos exist, the weaving pattern is similar. Not identical but close. Like different people making the same kind of thing. Like a tradition. I sent these photos to Marcus. He stared at them for a long time. Then he said, "That's what I've been trying to tell people. We're not alone out there. We never have been." The more I researched, the more I found in indigenous accounts. Over 40 different tribes across North America have stories about forest guardians. Beings that watch over lost travelers. Protect children who wander too far. Return them to their families. The Lummi people call them Tiesemaquis. The Salish call them Sasquatch. The Lakota have stories of the Chiatanka. Different names, same description. Tall. Covered in hair. Gentle with the young. Aggressive only when threatened. These aren't monster stories. They're neighbor stories. Accounts of beings that share the forest and mostly stay hidden but sometimes help. Western science dismissed these accounts as folklore. But what if they're not? What if they're oral history? Records of actual encounters passed down through generations? Marcus has started working with tribal elders. Documenting their knowledge. Recording stories that have never been written down. He's careful about it. Respectful. He doesn't push. Doesn't demand. Just listen. Some elders won't talk to him. They say this knowledge isn't for outsiders. Others appreciate that someone is finally taking their accounts seriously. One elder from the Quinault Nation told Marcus about a ceremony they used to do. When a child returned from the forest with stories of being helped by Tiesemaquis, the family would leave gifts at the tree line. Food. Woven items. Tokens of gratitude. They'd do this quietly without announcing it. The last time anyone did this ceremony was in the 1960s. After that, people stopped believing. Or stopped admitting they believed. Marcus asked what kind of gifts. The elder said anything made with care. Anything that showed respect. Marcus has started doing this. Leaves apples at the base of certain trees. Woven cord he makes himself. He doesn't expect anything back. He just wants to say thank you. 31 years later, but still. One time he left a gift and came back a week later. The apples were gone. In their place was a stack of 3 stones. Balanced perfectly. Could be a coincidence. It could be windy. Could be a person messing with him. Or it could be acknowledgement. I had Marcus's footage analyzed by 3 different experts. A video forensics specialist. A primatologist. A special effects artist. The forensics specialist said there's no evidence of digital manipulation. No layering. No CGI. Whatever the camera recorded was physically there. The primatologist said the body proportions don't match any known ape. The shoulder width to hip ratio is wrong. The arm length is too long for a gorilla, too short for an orangutan. The gait is bipedal, but the stride length suggests a being over 7 feet tall. If it's a person in a suit, it's the best suit she's ever seen. The special effects artist spent 2 days analyzing the footage frame by frame. He said the hair moves naturally. Individual strands. No seams. No zippers. No evidence of a costume. He said if it's fake, someone spent months creating a suit that's better than anything Hollywood has produced. And they did it for a trail camera in the middle of nowhere that might never be found. His conclusion? Probably not a hoax. Marcus published a paper last year. Academic journal. Peer-reviewed. The title is Pro-Social Behavior in Unidentified Hominids, A review of found child cases, 1960 to 2023. He doesn't use the word Bigfoot. He presents data. Patterns. He suggests there may be an unidentified species in North American forests that demonstrates protective behavior toward human children. The response has been mixed. Some researchers are interested. I want to see more data. Others have dismissed it entirely. Called it fringe science. Conspiracy thinking. One reviewer said Marcus is a cautionary tale about letting childhood trauma influence your career. Marcus doesn't care anymore. He knows what he knows. He has the footage. He has the data. He has 31 years of evidence that most people will never see because he refuses to give out locations. He won't tell anyone where he places his cameras. Won't share coordinates. Won't lead expeditions. People have offered him money. A lot of money. TV shows want to follow him into the forest. Researchers want access to his sites. He says no to all of it. He watched what happened after his sister's footage went public. He knows what people do when they think they can catch something rare. I asked him what he wanted. What's the end goal? He said he wants people to know they're real. That's it. Not to capture one. Not to study one in a lab. Not to prove anything to science. Just acknowledgement. He wants the children who come back with stories to be believed instead of medicated. He wants families to know they're not crazy. He wants the beings in those forests to be left alone. Just let them exist. Stop hunting them. Stop trying to drag them into our world. They've been here longer than we have. They know how to stay hidden. The only time they show themselves is when someone needs help. Usually a child. Usually someone is scared and lost. And then they guide them back and disappear again. That's not a monster. That's not something to be feared. That's something to be grateful for. I'm looking at the 1993 footage again right now. The clip Amy took of Marcus holding that massive hand. I've watched it maybe 500 times since Marcus sent it to me. Every time I see something new. The way the creature's chest rises and falls. The way its head turns slightly when it hears Amy's voice. The way it lets go of Marcus's hand so gently. Like releasing a bird. In that moment you can see everything. The size. The power. And the choice to be gentle. Marcus was 8 years old. We weighed maybe 60 pounds. That creature could have hurt him without thinking. Could have crushed him by accident. Instead it kept him safe for 6 days. Fed him. Warmed him. Protected him from men with guns. Then brought him home and walked away without asking for anything. That's not the behavior of an animal. That's not even the behavior of most humans. That's something else. Something we don't have words for yet. Marcus is 38 now. Has a good life. Works a job he loves. But he still wears the bracelet sometimes. The one from 1992. It's fragile now. The bark is dry and brittle. But he keeps it. Says it reminds him that someone cared when it mattered most. I asked if he's ever tried to find the big man again. Find the specific one who saved him. He said no. Said that would be selfish. Said the gift was being saved, not getting to say thank you. He hopes the big man is still out there. Still helping lost kids. Still making bracelets. Still teaching others how to be gentle. That's enough. So here's my question for you. If this footage is real, and I believe it is, what does that mean about all the other stories? What does it mean about the hundreds of children who were told they imagined it? What does it mean about the beings living in those forests right now, watching us, helping us, and staying hidden because they know what we'd do if we found them? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you've had your own experience you were too afraid to share, maybe it's time. Marcus spent 31 years carrying his story alone. He doesn't anymore. Maybe you don't have to either.